It was one of those quiet Friday afternoons when the world outside seemed unusually still. The rain had started earlier than expected, and the sky remained blanketed in thick clouds. My husband, Eric, had left that morning for a business trip to Boston. He was only going to be gone for the weekend, but for some reason, the house already felt emptier without him. I busied myself with small chores, laundry, dusting, checking emails, anything to distract myself from the eerie silence that filled the rooms. Eric and I had been married for 6 years. We met in college, where he'd always been the center of attention. Charming, funny, and effortlessly confident. I was more reserved, the type who preferred staying home with a book than going out partying. But somehow, he had pulled me into his world, and I was glad he did. Our life was stable, comfortable, and filled with mutual respect. What I didn't expect that weekend was a visit from Ryan, Eric's best friend since childhood. Ryan had always been a presence in our lives. He was the kind of friend who never missed a birthday or anniversary, the one who could show up unannounced and still be welcomed with open arms. He had a bit of a mischievous streak, always teasing Eric or making sarcastic remarks, but beneath that, he seemed like a loyal and dependable man. I was in the middle of folding laundry when my phone buzzed. It was Ryan. "Hey, just checking if you need anything while Eric's away. I'm around the neighborhood," the text read. I replied quickly, "All good here, thanks." A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I peeked through the peephole and saw Ryan standing there with a bag of takeout and a bottle of wine, I sighed and opened the door. "I figured you wouldn't cook for one," he said, flashing his usual grin. I let him in. It felt harmless. We'd shared countless meals together over the years. He was like family, and it was raining hard outside. Eric would be jealous if he knew I was eating his favorite pad thai without him, I joked as I set the table. "He should have taken me with him," Ryan quipped, setting the wine down. "But you know he hates flying with me. Says I talk too much on planes." We ate in the dining room, talked about work, random news, and shared stories. Everything seemed normal, comfortable. The wine was smooth, the rain outside made the moment cozy, and I was glad for the company. But then, things shifted. After dinner, Ryan offered to help clean up, and I let him. As I wiped the table, I noticed he was staring at me, not in a friendly way but intently. It made me a bit uncomfortable. "You've changed," he said out of the blue. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "You seem more confident. Different from how you used to be." I laughed nervously. "Well, 6 years of marriage can do that." He took a step closer. "Eric's lucky. You know that, right?" I didn't know how to respond to that. It felt like a compliment wrapped in something else. "Ryan," I started, but he cut me off. "Don't get me wrong. I'd never do anything to hurt Eric," he said, looking me dead in the eye. "But I've always noticed you. Even back then." I froze, not sure if I heard him correctly. "Ryan, you should probably go. It's getting late," I said firmly. He didn't move right away. Instead, he stepped even closer. "You've never thought about what life would be like if we had met first?" he asked quietly. I was stunned. My mind raced, trying to process what was happening. Was this a joke? Was he drunk? Was this some weird way of teasing me? "I think you've had too much wine," I said, taking a step back. "Please leave." Ryan's expression changed. He looked like he was battling something inside. Then, just as suddenly as the mood had shifted, he stepped back. "You're right. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I shouldn't have said any of that." He turned and walked out without another word. I locked the door behind him and stood there for a long time, trying to catch my breath. My hands were trembling. I had never seen that side of him before. I didn't know if I should tell Eric or pretend like it never happened. It hadn't escalated beyond words, but the implications were heavy. That night, I barely slept. The rain had stopped, but my thoughts were restless. I kept replaying the scene in my head, questioning everything: Ryan's intentions, his words, my reactions. The next day, I received a long text from him apologizing profusely. He blamed the wine, the stress he was under, and insisted he didn't mean any harm. I didn't reply. When Eric returned Sunday evening, I tried to act normal. We hugged, caught up on how his trip went, and I pretended everything was fine. But inside I was conflicted. Should I tell him? Would it just cause unnecessary tension? What if he confronted Ryan and it ruined their friendship? But Eric knew me too well. That night, as we lay in bed, he asked, "Something happened, didn't it?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Was it something serious?" he asked, concern in his voice. I took a deep breath. Ryan came over Friday night. He brought food and wine. We had dinner. And then, he said some things. Things he shouldn't have. Eric sat up. What kind of things? I told him everything. His words, the way he looked at me, the apology afterward. Eric was silent for a while, processing. Then he got out of bed, paced the room, and finally sat back down. "I believe you," he said. "And I'm sorry you had to deal with that." I didn't expect that. No anger, no accusations. Just calm understanding. "What are you going to do?" I asked. He sighed. "I need to talk to him. We've been friends since we were kids, but if he crossed the line with you, that's not something I can ignore." The next day, Eric met with Ryan. I didn't go, but later Eric told me how it went. Ryan admitted everything and apologized again. He told Eric it was a moment of weakness, a stupid lapse in judgment, and that he regretted it deeply. Eric said he needed time to process. That their friendship wouldn't be the same. After that, Ryan didn't come around anymore. Eric and I didn't talk about it often, but it stayed in the background of our minds, like a scar that had healed but still ached on certain days. In a way, the experience brought us closer. We had to confront something neither of us expected. It tested our trust, our communication, and our boundaries. But we came out stronger. Life slowly returned to normal. The rain stopped. The sky cleared. And our home, once filled with uncertainty, became a place of clarity and deeper connection. Even now, whenever I think about that weekend, I remember how quickly things can shift, how someone you thought you knew can surprise you in the worst way. But I also remember the strength it takes to protect what matters most, and the courage to face the unthinkable and still choose love.